It was the year 1905. East Coast was the favorite spot for 9 energetic young men who gathered every Sunday for a dip in the sea. Those were idyllic days along the east coast of Singapore. It was here that the Tanjung Katong swimming party made its foray. As more joined the Tanjung Katong swimming party, the group decided it needed a more formal name and structure. By 1909, the name Chinese Swimming Club was adopted. This is where the club's history begins. The club and its members in the early 1920s had become a respected part of Singapore Chinese society. Early pioneer members included Mr. Xiao Xian Chai, Mr. Lee Chin Koon, who was the first honorary secretary of the club, and Mr. Cheong Koon Seng, who later became the club president, who had raised funds to build the paga to make it safe for members to swim. By 1925, the club acquired its permanent home, Bungalow C, the current site of the Arrival Pavilion, from Mrs. Lee Chun Guan for $25,000. By 1939, the club made plans to upgrade its facilities, starting with the demolition of Bungalow C to make way for a 3-story clubhouse, as well as a proper 25-meter seawater swimming pool. Much to the excitement of the members, the new clubhouse and the 25-meter swimming pool was opened in 1941.
There was the old building, and that was the clubhouse, and eventually we also had a 25-meter pool, which consisted, I believe, more seawater than the fresh water. So the water, of course, was not as transparent and beautiful as it now. And we had all our competitions and training in the pool.
Barely 2 months after the grand opening, everything came to an abrupt halt. The Japanese army had landed in Singapore. The years that followed were dark ones. The newly opened clubhouse was commandeered by the Japanese military police and used as an interrogation post. The club survived the ravages of the war, but many of its records were destroyed during the Japanese occupation. It reopened its doors to its members in 1946. Although the club activities resumed, its membership strength was paltry. It sank into financial hardship. Undaunted, in 1947, the club launched a membership drive. For a staggering $100, anyone could sign up to become a life member. Within a year, membership grew to more than 600.
It was quite a number of years, I believe 4 or 5 years, where I owed the subscription. But of course, I was not the only one. There were 4 or 5 of us who were in that category. Somebody from the committee finally approached us and said, look, we put you as a life member, so after you don't have to pay anymore, but you just pay the difference from what you owe. So I said, well, that was a good alternative, so we did that.
By 1951, a full-sized Olympic swimming pool was completed. By the late 50s, membership numbers swelled to over 4,000. And in 1959, the club president G.H. Kiet announced that all communal clubs should be opened to all, regardless of race. This led to the admission of members of other races. The 60s ushered in the golden era for swimming in the club. Due to members' demand and his unconventional teaching techniques, the club appointed Dr. Chan Ah Kao as the club coach.
Well, those days, the only person who was there to push us was my father, you know, and he did that with everybody else. So we climbed the walls, helped each other over, and then started training at about 5:30, 6 in the morning. It paid off because at the end of the day, I wanted to go to the Olympics. You know, so I went, 64, together with Tuan Heng and a couple of other guys.
The club swimmers achieved unprecedented success in regional and international competitions. Dr. Chan's daughter, Patricia Chan, became Singapore's first golden girl and swimming icon in the 1960s up to the early 70s. Tan Tuan Heng, another national swimmer at the club who trained under Ki Soon Bee and Dr. Chan Ah Kao, also achieved great success. He also went on to be the first recipient of the Sportsman of the Year award by the Singapore National Olympic Council in 1968.
I started swimming when I was around 6 years old. That was in 1955. I started representing Singapore when I was about 13, 12 or 13 in the first SEAP Games in Rangoon, 1961. I was training with Michael Yu, Bernard Chan, Pat Chan. In those days, I think it's a lot more relaxed, I would say. We were like a big family. We would be doing a lot of laps, up and down, twice a day in the morning and then in the evening after school. And we probably do about 3,000-4,000 meters in each session.
Although Dr. Chan Ah Kao retired as coach in the late 1970s, the club's swimming success was phenomenal. It continued to be a nurturing ground for a list of the country's top swimmers, like Roy Chan, David Lim, Tan Vi Meng, and Desmond Koh, to name a few.
My coach then was Uncle Hop, and he was quite a fierce fella. But he managed to teach someone like me how to swim. I was really naughty, and he could focus my energies into learning how to swim. For me, the club was special. My friends that were around, the parents, a lot of the uncles and aunties who I still call them uncle aunties these days. The management of the club made a big difference, and people like the president, the captains, they were all, I think, around even today. I still come back and swim. It's just a special place for me. It's like my second home in a sense.
Encouraged by Datuk Dr. Lee Kong Chien in 1963, Mr. Soon Peng Yam took over the reins of the club as president from Mr. G.H. Kiet. Under Mr. Soon's able leadership, Chinese Swimming Club gradually expanded its facilities and evolved into the all-round sports club that it is today.
Mr. Soon was president for 38 years before he passed on the baton to me. To stay 38 years requires a lot of patience, a lot of tolerance, a lot of commitment, a lot of sacrifice. Mr. Soon's management style was years ahead of his time. Traditionally, it was very Chinese, but in many ways and the ways he ran the club was very corporate-like.
In the 1970s, plans were made to build and upgrade facilities at the sports complex to meet the expanding membership. Midway through the construction, costs overran. Mr. Soon Peng Yam helped by raising $500,000 through sponsorship to cover the shortfall.
I think he had the confidence that to approach the right people at the right time. He was quite confident that the community, the Chinese community, would come and assist, right, to complete the club. Somehow, talking to the Lee Foundation, right, and many others, the Shaw brothers, right, and a few others, Mr. Soon raised the shortfall of $500,000.
At $5 million, with a lease of 30 years from the government, the construction of the old sports complex was completed and officially opened in 1979. Next was the construction of the recreation complex. It was officially opened by the president, Dr. Wee Kim Wee, in 1992. In the early 90s, members of the management committee wanted to ensure the club's continued success into the 21st century and proposed the adoption of the club's vision and mission at its annual general meeting in 1995.
What we were wondering at that time, what would happen in the next 10, 20 years? So we got a team led by Mr. Chei and a committee of people to brainstorm, to work with members, to work within the MC, to chart a course, not only in hardware but in software, on what values we want to keep within ourselves.
With 5 years of its lease remaining, the former sports complex with its iconic blue-tiled roof was demolished to make way for the $27.4 million state-of-the-art sports complex. The sports complex was unveiled in 2005.
I became chairman of the redevelopment committee in 2001. The biggest challenge to me was how to best make use of the club's existing funds to build for members what they want. At the very beginning, the committee decided that we should break up the project into 3 phases. The first phase involves the development of the sports complex, the second the rival pavilion, and finally the recreation complex.
Phase 2 of the project followed suit shortly after in 2007. Once again, the old clubhouse, formerly Bungalow C, was torn down, and in its place a $16 million arrival pavilion was constructed. It was completed in 2009 and was a much anticipated gift to the club on its 100th anniversary. Finally, the upgrading work to the recreation complex in 2011 completes the club's transformation. The redevelopment of the club in the new millennium has spanned over 12 years. The club has come full circle.
There is this positive attitude that I have experienced throughout the whole development. It can be done. That's what everybody says.
Pioneered by 9 young men, built through a century of shared vision, the Chinese Swimming Club has come a long way since its beginnings along the east coast of Singapore. Thanks to the people who have made it possible.